Hey yo guys, what's up and welcome back to Toe Tags Metal Reviews, and today we're checking out the brand new releases from Entheos, Enslaved, and Haken. So, big day I would say for prog metal. Not that all of these bands are strictly prog, but they're definitely all progressive in their own right. So, I started my day out with Enslaved. The album's called Heimdall. This band's been around for like 30 years. Been around for a while anyway. But like many bands, I've never got into them, right? I kind of just know they've existed. And whatever. So I checked the album out, and I thought, you know what? This would be good for like background music. That's kind of like the vibe I got in my first. I listened to it twice. First listen, this is how I felt. Background music, pretty good. Nothing really stand out. When I listened to it again, I started going, wow, there's actually some good substance here. There's a lot of creativity. There's a lot of, you know, different things going on. They really do a good job of kind of switching things up and not sounding stale, which a lot of, you know, 90s black metal bands tend to do. This is more progressive in a lot of ways. It's kind of like progressive black metal, if you could put it that way. If I had to compare it to something, I'd probably say it's like modern day Ishan kind of vibes. Maybe that's not as groovy as his stuff. Definitely not as groovy, but
it's like if you took today's Ishan and had Emperor perform it, you know?
Yeah, something like that.
It's kind of weird to put it that way, but yeah.
The standout tracks for me were track number 2 and 6. So track number 2 is called Congelia. Again, there's nothing specific that makes it stand out other than I thought the solo was cool. And I'm kind of getting tired of saying that. A lot of times this track stands out to me because, oh, it had a cool solo, it had a cool solo. I'm trying to think of things other than that makes tracks stand out, but I just couldn't really pinpoint it. But if it stands out, it stands out. What can you do?
I mean, in the case of that song specifically, I also made a note about the solo, so that's how you know the solo was good.
There you go.
We both felt that way. Like,
there you go.
It's a pretty damn good solo.
Caravans to the Outer Worlds, again, just some really good grooves. The progressions of this song are really nice. It had drive, which is attractive to me as a listener. Overall, I think it's an enjoyable album, but I didn't fall in love with it. I wasn't expecting to, but I always would want to do that, right? Mm-hmm. Your thoughts on Heimdall?
You know, I'm not sure what I was expecting. I'm kind of in a similar boat to you with this band. It's like I know of them, I've heard the name a lot, but I've never really checked them out. In my head, kind of thought they would just be death metal. I don't know why I thought that. I just kind of did. So when I jumped in, I'm like, whoa, this is not what I was expecting. But the mood building of the first track is really nice. It's kind of goes for the long run, plays the long game with it, but it has a really nice timbre. Definitely befitting of its album art. You know, you look at this album art, and this is the kind of thing you could see it sounding like. The scope is really cool. It's got some pretty cleans. The harshes are neat. The overall soundscape is really nice. I feel like it's a good album for if you're traveling somewhere. You know, if you're going on a big walk through the woods or whatever, this is definitely a nice thing to listen to. Congelia, not much is happening, but one thing I kind of like is that it's got this long section of groove, and then there's some vocals, and then once the vocals are done, it switches to something else until vocals come back, and then switches to something else after that. Like, you're kind of getting like benchmarks of vocal stanzas before moving on to another section.
And that's what I mean when I say it's proggy.
Yeah,
it's progressing in that sense, yeah.
But the solo, great. Very, very nice. There's a riff that kicks up in Forest Dweller. I think it might be around the halfway-ish point, if I recall correctly. It's a bit fuzzy, but that riff is nasty. The only thing I was kind of feeling, though, near the end is I kind of felt like, you know, a lot of these songs kind of do the same general thing, and I didn't feel like there was much evolution going on. It was just like, okay, yeah, this album's kind of doing the same general thing throughout the whole album, but not to say that it was bad. It was still really cool and it was a nice soundscape. I just felt like, maybe there was a little bit of repetition with it, but I feel like it's the kind of thing I'd have to give more listens to really get an idea of like how I feel about that. But it was still pretty nice.
So next one I listened to was Entheos. Time Will Take Us All. Entheos is another band we're both pretty new to. I saw them gaining some steam. People were talking about it, hyped about the album. I said, what's this? Checked it out. Found out that the band's comprised of former members of The Faceless, Animals as Leaders and maybe some other bands. So I thought, oh, TV Fish loves both those bands. I dabbled in them a little bit. Maybe we should check this out. So we did. This is also progressive, but it's more like progressive death metal. So you're getting kind of the same vein, but different branch. Or same branch, different vein, however you want to say it. I thought this album was pretty solid. It's got a little bit of deathcore element in there as well. It's aggressive. It's more mean sounding, which is definitely more my style. My biggest gripe with this album, to be honest, is the fact that every song blends together so well. It's a seamless album, and you might think, well, that's a good thing, isn't it, Vile? What are you doing? You're crazy. You don't like seamlessness? And I'm like, yeah, I do, but when it comes to progressive music, and you have like each song's kind of like subdivided into different sections, and then the next song subdivided into different sections, it's almost hard for people like me, idiots, to decipher where a song starts and where a song ends when there's no discernible start and end to these songs. That might be a small gripe though. I mean, that's something like once you get familiar with the album and you start to know where songs start and end, that becomes a moot point. Songs that stood out to me on this album. So the first song started off really groovy and awesome, syncopated, sounds tight, really cool stuff. I Am the Void, track number 5, suddenly has a female vocalist in it. So I'm pretty sure this album throughout has 2 vocalists. If it's one guy, he's doing a really good job and making it sound like 2 people. But on track number 5, there's a female vocal. They're not credited, which I found weird. And I think there's female vocal on a later song too, but I forgot to make a note of it. Darkest Day is probably the best song on the album for me so far. It's the most aggressive song out of the gate. The bass is nice and chunky, and it kind of reminded me of Divine Heresy, which is a band that kind of like blew up a little bit back in like the mid-2000s and it kind of disappeared, but I think that was a super group as well. Members of Fear Factory, I think, and I can't remember, but they were just really just punchy, aggressive in your face. So it was nice to hear something that reminded me of that. And I was also getting some vibes of Through the Eyes of the Dead, which I know a lot of people don't listen to that band, but I love that band. And I was getting a lot of vibes from them through listening to this. So I was getting a lot of good feels, but I was also annoyed at the same time at certain aspects. So I'm a bit like kind of up and down with how I felt about this overall, but I still think overall it's pretty good. One more point before I pass the floor. The last song, Time Will Take Us All, has one of the most abrupt endings I've ever heard, because it just kind of just stops.
I don't recall it being that abrupt. I'd have to check it out again. But, I mean, you know, you mentioned deathcore, and the literal first note that I wrote about this album is that this is like deathcore Meshuggah. Now, I think that's really cool. The transitions, I think, are some of the coolest transitions I've ever heard, because, yes, I was having that same experience, like, oh, this is the next song, what the heck? And then I started looking more closely at the actual play bar as songs were going, and I'm like, oh, wait. This is where it ends? Whoa! And there's one in particular where, which one was it? There was a song, yeah, the transition into Darkest Day, where the song before it sets up for a breakdown, and then Darkest Day starts with that breakdown. But I don't feel like it would be disjunct if you listened on shuffle. I feel like they split it at the right time. Maybe. Obviously, I'd have to experiment with that, but I did like that a lot. I thought, oh wow, that's sick. You listen, you throw on Darkest Day, you start with a breakdown. I guess the last song before it might end on a bit of a cliffhanger, but it's not too close to the point that you think something has to happen.
Yeah.
But I did like that quite a bit. The Interior Wilderness is one that really stood out to me. It has cleans near the end, which are layered with the harsh vocals, which I think sounds awesome. And then the guitar shows up and joins in on that harmony, like, oh, hello, that's cool. There's a lot of vocal layering. Even the female vocals in I Am the Void, like the dissonance and layering that happens with that too is really pretty. It's very technical. There's a lot of metric modulation between duple and triple meter, which is really cool. I always love that kind of stuff. But yeah, a lot of notes I was making about the Interior Wilderness. That song is really cool. It does a cool thing where it slows down, but not for a breakdown, which you would expect with most deathcore nowadays, but just for like kind of a more softer sounding section. Yeah. Which is really cool, and I like that it subverted my expectation there. And I feel like I got some kind of spidey sense for the Faceless, because I remember you told me there were former members of the Faceless in this band. But as I'm listening to this album, I'm like, oh yeah, this sounds like the Faceless. Like, I just got that sense for it. I don't know what it is. I just do. There's been multiple times where I'm like, oh, this sounds like the Faceless. So it'll be like, oh yeah, that guy in the band was in the Faceless. I'll be like, oh, okay, well that makes sense.
There you go.
But I did enjoy this album quite a bit, and I thought there were a lot of really cool moments. There were a lot of really harsh, strong moments, a lot of really pretty moments. The end of the album, like, it goes into acoustic guitar in the last track. Like, oh my god, now they got this into the mix. Like,
yeah.
I love that they pulled out so many things, and it keeps the album fresh, keeps it interesting, and it keeps you, like, keeps surprising you over and over as you go. Like, what else are they gonna do?
Yeah, definitely a lot going on. So, just moving along now, Haken, the last album we checked out of the day, the album's called Fauna. We've covered Haken on this channel a few times, reaction videos, and we reviewed their last album, which was called Virus. It got a toe tag from TU Fish, and I got a 7 for myself. So, listening to this album today, I struggle to enjoy it. Now, if you guys are new to this channel, I'm going to let you guys know that I'm not the biggest prog guy, especially this type of prog. I can get into prog when it's not as syncopated and as broken up and as genre bending as this is.
We've covered other prog albums on this channel that definitely appeal to you a lot more that are not in this style.
Well, the reason why I bring up Virus is because that's one of those albums. It got a 7 from me, which is just barely missing a toe tag. I like that album a lot, but the reason is because that album is a lot more accessible. It's a lot more streamlined. It's a lot more just easy to listen to for people that are not into the heavy broken up style of rhythmic chaos. This album, it feels like prog is just a dick measuring contest of who could be the most random in their music. Like, that's what it feels like to me. You know, let's see who can make the most unpredictable rhythms, or let's see who can surprise the listeners the most with, oh, we're going to switch to this style all of a sudden. We'll play a few bars of jazz music, and then we'll switch back to this, and then we'll switch to that, and then we'll have this, and then we'll have that. It's just kind of just all over the place for me. It's a little bit too chaotic. It doesn't mean I can't listen to it. It just, I have a hard time enjoying it. I don't really have a lot of great notes, to be honest. I'll tell you the notes that I do have. So Nightingale, track number 2, borderline narration. Like, it's almost not even singing. It's almost like he's just talking over a track. It's singing, but it's like, it almost just feels like narration. The Alphabet of Me. One thing I liked about this, I like when bands throw in different instruments. We always compliment and comment on these types of things. I couldn't tell if it was a trumpet or a saxophone.
Sounded like a trumpet to me.
It sounded like a trumpet to me too, but it had a little bit of this like soul to it that made me think it was sax. But I also thought it might just be synth, like mimicking. Yeah, it easily could have been.
I thought it was a trumpet.
Semi-Eternal Beings. Well, I don't know, man. I thought trumpet too, but for some reason I kept thinking, is it a saxophone? Is it a saxophone? I don't know. It was weird. Semi-Eternal Beings is a song that I kept wondering if the singer was hitting bad notes. And I'm like, I don't know if this guy's off pitch or what, but it sounded sour to my ear. And usually when something sounds sour to my ear, it's because something's off pitch. Maybe that's a me thing, I don't know. But he doesn't sound like this on any other song. In fact, he's got a really good voice. So for him to be just like off on one song, I think this is a me problem, but it sounded odd to me. Track number 5, Beneath the White Rainbow. I was like, yes, finally, a song I like. Beneath the White Rainbow. Best song so far. I'm digging it. I'm like, yes, here we go. I'm finally getting behind this. And then Halfway starts. And it just sounds like a malfunctioning robot all of a sudden. It just goes down the fucking drain. And also, is it white or is it a rainbow? It can't be both. Track number 8, Elephants Never Forget. The best part about this song, and I think this is a standout thing on the album, at least that I noticed on a first listen, is that it has funk. There's some funkiness to it, which was cool. That stood out to me. I always like a little bit of funk here and there. Overall, though, this was a tough listen for me. Not gonna lie. Sorry.
Well, I mean, as someone who loves this band and loved Virus, I felt that Virus is one of the absolute best albums this band has ever made. The bar was high for Fauna, and I checked out some of the singles. I checked out The Alphabet of Me, Taurus, we reacted to Taurus, and Nightingale. And the Alphabet of Me I really liked when I checked it out when it was a single. Taurus and Nightingale didn't really hit the mark for me the same way. My opinion on Taurus is better now, listening to it on the album, than it was when we reacted to it. The grooves are nice. The chorus melody reminded me of something else that they did, but I couldn't really remember what it was. I just found that something was familiar here, and I wouldn't be surprised if it really was, because this band does a lot of self-referential stuff, especially considering what they did on Virus. Even more so, especially in the Messiah Complex. But the Alphabet of Me, I still love that song. I feel like the groove is sick, and it's got this electronic tinge that kind of reminds me of something they would have done on Affinity. So I think that's pretty cool. The trumpet is awesome. Like, that song overall is the Haken that I know and love. Sempiternal Beings, to me, felt like a hybrid of Prosthetic and Invasion, which are both from Virus, and I love both those songs, so it's cool that it hits really hard, but it's got this chorus that's a lot more melodic. Like, I love that. That's a really good song too. And Beneath the White Rainbow hits like a truck, but 180s to quiet stuff back and forth, so it really messes around with that pacing. I like that song as well. But the overall album's pace is an inverse of what I thought it would be. It kind of starts out chill and then ramps up to harder stuff as it goes, like closer to the middle. Island in the Clouds is another one that I liked quite a bit. Very groovy, and I kind of wish that that was a single. I don't know if they chose the best singles, but after hearing Love Bite, it's fine, but I don't know if I really would have preferred it as a single myself. However, I can see that song like trying to reach to a broader audience. Like, I can see why that was picked as a single. I'm just saying, like, myself as a Haken fan, I would have preferred a song like Island in the Clouds to be a single in place of something like that, or maybe in place of either Taurus or Nightingale. I don't know. The longer two songs near the end, I didn't like as much as I liked the Messiah Complex. Of course, I gotta listen some more. I just didn't feel like they really encapsulated a grand story like the Messiah Complex did. But I feel like I'm comparing a little bit too much to Virus, and like that album,
hard not to though.
It's hard not to, because it was their most recent release before this album, and they set the bar real high with how good it was.
Yeah.
But there is a really hard groove near the middle of Elephants Never Forget, and I like that quite a bit. So overall, the album was good. I didn't love it, but there are songs in there that I did enjoy a lot. So, you know, I'd like to listen to it more just to get an idea as to what I think of the other songs. But there is some stuff in there that I do enjoy quite a bit.
So that's it, guys. That's our thoughts on these three albums. But as far as album reviews go, we didn't quite feel strong enough about either of these albums to want to review them for the week. So we're going to take a free week and not review one of these albums. But 100% you guys should definitely check out all three of these albums. Leave your thoughts down below in the comments of what you think about them all. And we'll be back next week with our new first impressions of whatever comes out next week. Can't remember what's coming out.
It's going to be a big week, I'll tell you.
It's a big week. But for now, comment down below, subscribe if you guys are new to the channel. I'm Vile Self.
I'm TV Fish.
And we'll see you guys on the next one.